I'd like to talk about social media first in general. We live in an age where the Pope preaches using Twitter, dictators are on Instagram, and Instagram can make your mouth water because there are so many pictures of cupcakes on Instagram. Uh, all said and done, and all the cynicism aside, keeping aside all the cynicism about social media, I think social media is a double-edged sword. Uh, Double-edged, why? Because one, it can move governments. What happened at Tahrir Square, I think they owe it to Twitter more than anyone else, more than the military or anyone. Or something like this. Now, this guy is a monk in Burma, alright? His name is Veeravatu, okay? He's a monk. He's a Buddhist monk, which we believe is the most peaceful religion in the world. But he is called Burma's Bin Laden by the Time magazine. Now here's why. Because he hates Muslims. He has a theory where, you must have noticed the number 786 written, where Muslims associate themselves with the number 786. He has a theory that if you were to add 786, you get 21. And it's a conspiracy theory that the Muslims started that by 21st century they would own the world. He gives hate speeches not from a promenade, or he does not talk from a soapbox, or does not go to rallies to give hate speeches like, say, Bal Thackeray would. He uses Facebook. Now, how does he use Facebook? He hires professional people to shoot anecdotes and short documentaries of people who have suffered under the Muslims in Burma, edits them professionally, and then puts it up on Facebook. So a double-edged sword, because the social media on one hand empowers the people, because I call it the age where it's the age of micro-media house, where in our own individual sense we are a media house, because the entire cause of citizen journalism has now gone a step further, where we are not depending on the industrial conglomerates who control our conventional media to give us news, but we give our news ourselves. Touching upon genre of photography, which is called documentary photography. Now, what is documentary photography? Documentary photography is something broader than photojournalism. It not only deals with the day-to-day activities of, say, what is happening around in the city or around you or in the country or in the world. Documentary photography is about documenting and telling a story not by just one picture, by a body of work, by combining pictures together, okay, and then projecting it for a cause. It can be something of, say, a hard story like this one, okay, where, say, me in this case, me shooting kids, Tibetan refugees, kids, and trying to highlight the macro issue of Tibet. So that is documentary photography. It can go as light to, say, something like this, just the moods of a dancer. Or it can be something very light-headed and very youth-centric, like this, like the rise of electronic dance music in Bombay. Just yesterday we had Hardwell in Bombay. So there's a lot of resurgence of this 1960s music genre that now we see in this city especially. Like I was saying, that documentary photography can go from a hard story to a soft story. Today, the entire point of this is when you get your Lumias, okay, I'm going to go in a stage where I'm going to justify how the Lumia, okay, or any device like that, okay, in this case, obviously the Lumia, is apt for documentary photography, correct? And when we go down for the photo walk, okay, we could discuss ideas that you all could shoot, and then we'll have a contest called the My Story in 41 Pictures, which we will tell you about later. So, now, I'd like to share this anecdote. I was in McLeodganj last year, okay, and I was shooting monks over there. This was when I was shooting Sons in Exile. Because the DSLR is so huge, it is intimidating when you're shooting something on the street. And documentary photography is mainly about going up there and shooting and not creating something in an AC studio. No offense to commercial photographers, but it's about shooting what is already out there. And when you're using something as intimidating and as humongous as a DSLR, okay, it can destroy the candid feature that you are looking for. This happened when I was in the McLeod Square and I was chasing this monk because I thought of a picture that I could make with him. He got angry and he smacked my camera. This is the right moment when he smacked the camera. Nothing happened to the camera, but you know shit's getting serious when a Buddhist monk gets pissed off. So, I'd like to take this anecdote in as a center focus and tell you that when you're shooting, say, the genre of street photography, photojournalism, or documentary photography, or just citizen journalism, okay? When you're out there, a DSLR can get very intimidating. When you're just shooting with a phone, no one really gives a shit. Alright? No one will really pay attention that, okay, who are you shooting, why are you shooting that, or whatever. It's okay. This is not mine. This is by a photographer called Chairdeep Chaudhary. He was the ex-photo editor for Time Out magazine, and now he's currently associated with the National Geographic magazine. He's also a documentary photographer that I really admire. A few years ago, he moved to a suburban city in down Thane. Now he was in a dilemma. Now I'm going to be in the train for 1 hour every day. What do I do? How do I make use of it? So he started shooting people sitting right across him, right in front of him, and called this series called The Commuters. Now a series like that also comes under documentary photography, which is rigged by the most center focus of it being candidness. If the pictures aren't candid, they are not good enough. Then the entire series has no point, it's baseless. He faced a lot of problems when he first started pulling out his DSLR. Because people would shy away, or people would just walk away, or they would ask him questions. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you shooting me? Why me? To get that candidness intact, he started shooting a compact camera. But still, a camera is still a camera in its physicality, and still attracts a lot of attention that may just ruin your candidness. So imagine if you used a Lumia or a phone like that, okay, to shoot this. It would be easier because the guy in front, okay, wouldn't really care. He wouldn't know if he's shooting or he's just typing or texting or whatever, right? This one, I shot this one last year in Delhi. This was in Delhi Metro, and that's the iconic Hanuman statue at the Karol Bagh. Shooting is prohibited in the Delhi Metro because of obvious reasons for terrorism or whatever. Right next to me, right here, there was a cop standing. And he told me, okay, you can have the camera outside, but you can't shoot. And I said, okay, fine. But when I saw this, I wanted to shoot it. So I put my camera here with the strap, just put the settings, and I kept it here. And when we were approaching the statue, I just shot one frame, and I got lucky. I can tell you this, I just got lucky. It's not my brilliance or excellence that I got this shot. But if I had a phone camera by then, a phone camera that lets me control my shutter speed, it gives me something like 41 megapixels, I wouldn't have to be so coy and sly about shooting something in the train. I could shoot it without getting noticed. While traveling, this was when I was traveling from Manali to McLeod. So while traveling, you can make pictures like that because I'm personally someone who uses a lot of wide shots. Okay, and a phone would be easier when you're traveling and you don't really have to take care of it. And it's always there in your pocket, it's always there with you. They say the best camera you can have is the one that you have with you. So you don't really have to get that burden of using a DSLR always. Okay, before we go in, later I'm going to discuss a few ideas that I have about documentary photography and what we could shoot down. I would like to talk about a very novel concept of how to package documentary photography, which I will come to later.